Hello everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing Citizen Kane. So Citizen Kane was directed and starring Orson Welles and is widely regarded as one of, if not the, greatest film of all time. Now, it's number one on the American Film Institute's 1998 list of 100 years, 100 movies, and also number one on the updated list, which was in 2007, and it's been number one on 5 consecutive Sight and Sound greatest movies from 1962 to 2002. So needless to say, it's got a great reputation as being a very important film, a very well regarded film, and yeah, so the story revolves around Charles Foster Kane, who's played by Orson Welles, who is a newspaper mogul, and his character dies right at the start of the film, and his last word is Rosebud. So throughout the film we want to know what Rosebud is and what it means. So throughout most of the film we follow a newspaper journalist, and what he does, he interviews lots of people who knew Charles Foster Kane during his life, such as his ex-wives and people he used to work with, and then through the use of flashbacks the film shows us different times and different scenes with Charles Foster Kane, and it starts off from when he's a little boy to when he's an old man, and they use a lot of makeup on Orson Welles to make him look older in the later scenes, which works really well. But really what makes this film so important is the way it's filmed and how much creativity Orson Welles had over it and how much control he had over it. So Orson Welles actually produced this as well and co-wrote it, so he had a lot of input in the film. It was a completely original screenplay, and this film really is very different to a lot of the films in its era, in that the way it was filmed was very creative, using the camera shots and the editing. It just really sets it apart from everything else, because during that time a lot of the films, they were filmed using standalone cameras, but this one, the camera is moving around all the time, there's lots of focus, there's pans ins and pans out, and you can tell that when filming it, every shot and every angle was thought about very carefully, and a lot of effort, a lot of thought was put into it. Now my experience with this film is that I watched it twice. The first time I watched it was a long time ago, probably about maybe 8-9 years ago, and I liked it, but I didn't really understand it. I didn't really understand what it was about, I didn't really get the hype, but I thought it was good. I thought, yeah, this is a good film, but the best film of all time? Well, I don't know really. But the second time I watched it was yesterday, and I understood it a lot more, and I definitely appreciated it a lot more. Do I still think it's the best film of all time? Well, to be honest, probably not, but I do think it is a very good film, and I can understand why it is very well received and how it has got such a great reputation. Yeah, so in terms of the story itself, it is actually fairly straightforward. It is quite fast paced. There are a lot of scenes which some people might not quite understand why they are there. There's lots of scenes with interacting with different characters, and sometimes it doesn't really seem like it's adding much to the plot. From a certain point of view I can see that, but when you actually watch it towards the end of the film, you will understand why those scenes took place and why exactly everything had to happen. And the interesting thing is, a lot of the scenes, because it's through the use of flashbacks, they're not always in the correct order, not always in chronological order of Charles Foster Kane's life. So although we do start off in a scene where he's a child, we then move forward and he's a bit older, and sometimes it can go back and forth a little bit, and you can often tell by Orson Welles how old he's supposed to be looking, and it just makes a story, it makes you think a bit more when you're watching it. It makes the story a lot more interesting, and yeah, so it just makes you really think about how to watch the film and what to think about. So in terms of rating for this film, of how good I think it is, I think it's very good. I wouldn't quite give it a 10 out of 10, although I think perhaps it might be deserving in some ways. So I'm going to give it a 9, because I think it's deserving of a 9, perhaps it's deserving of a 10, but because it's just, from a personal point of view, I wouldn't say this is one of my favourite films, but I do think it's very good, so I can't really give it a 10. So I think a 9 out of 10 is a very good score for it. Citizen Kane, there we go. So what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you love the film? Do you hate the film? Do you think my review is good? Do you think my review is bad? Let me know, please. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.